All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our lesson. This is going to focus on the American Homefront during World War II. So our objectives and standards to analyze how World War II caused a population shift and to examine the effects of war on Americans. And please take a look at the standards as well. Okay, vocabulary. We have the GI Bill of Rights. That's our one and only vocabulary for this lesson. So think about this. How does war impact society? Um, Hopefully you're not too familiar with this, or you don't ever have to become familiar with, but how does a war impact society? Some things you've learned or seen. What does war do to society at home? So our essential question is, what was life like for Americans during the war? So one thing that World War II did, and I've mentioned this I think in other lessons and in live class I know specifically, but World War II kind of helped America come out of the Great Depression, okay, because we were expanding businesses and industries for the war effort. So, like we had said, that these industries need people to work and build things for the war effort, so more people are able to get jobs. So, as the war industry boomed, unemployment began to fall. Incomes of Americans also rose during this time because, again, they're working and these industries are able to make more money, and so they're able to supply more money to people. And Americans were also able to save their money. And as Americans save their money, they're going to begin to invest a lot of these savings in war bonds. Now, farming also had some success during the war as well. So farmers and their farms were also very successful. Good weather allowed for better crop seasons, and farmers are going to benefit from new technologies, and they saw their incomes rise as crop prices increased. So farming also improved as well, which we talked about farming kind of taking a hit during the Great Depression. So farming also begins to rise too. Over 6 million women are going to enter the workforce during the war. Most women worked in the war industries, which had better pay and challenged them to work harder and do more things. Now, some other women did pick up other professions, such as journalists, while men were away at war. So while the economy was growing and spreading, the population was also changing. Americans began to move to different areas around the country for work. Especially people began to move to towns that had these defense industries or factories that were able to supply jobs. So those areas saw their populations boom as well. African Americans also make a big population move. Many of them are going to leave the South for northern cities in huge numbers, um, and they're going to move to those more urban centers for jobs and things like that. Okay, so despite the booming economy, Americans faced other difficulties as well. One thing was women struggled with raising their children while their husbands were fighting the war. And sometimes children were left to the care of neighbors or child care centers while their mothers worked. For teenagers who could be left home alone, they could become kind of, wander around the neighborhoods or whatever, or, run away from home, and they could become in trouble with the law. And remember that even after World War I, we had a lot of men who were coming back from war who had a hard time readjusting society, and men who were returning home after World War II or during the war also had a very difficult time adjusting to society as well. Now the war also led to some some of the social struggles which were negative, but it also had some positive things as well. The war helped spur new weddings and new families. Couples rushed to get married before the war shipped the men overseas or whatever. And eventually, and we're going to talk about this later on in the class too as well, is that these new marriages are going to eventually lead to what becomes the baby boom as these men come home from war and come home to their new wives. These new families will begin to grow and spread, and like I said, this will lead to what we know as the baby boom. So the government also took some action to support veterans coming home. Like I said, we had talked about how men coming home from war had a hard time, readjusting in society and getting used to being home again. So in 1944, Congress passed the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, and what it's more commonly known as the GI Bill of Rights. Now, what it did was it provided education and training services to veterans to help them readjust to society. And it also provided federal loans to help with buying a home, purchasing a farm, or even opening their own business. And over 7.8 million veterans use some type of service of the GI Bill of Rights. It was a big thing that came about right at the end of World War II. All right, so let's just wrap it up here. So remember that we talked about how the economy exploded during the war and kind of helped America recover from the Great Depression still. We had a lot of industries and businesses that were involved with war production, so that led to a lot of people uh, becoming employed and getting jobs. And with that said, Americans also struggled with different aspects of society. So while they were, growing and spreading in terms of population and income, they also struggled with, women having to take care of their children while their husbands were away, children, facing with the struggles of, not really seeing their parents, and also men coming home from war and having to readjust to society. Um, Now, the government did take some action to help support those men coming home from war to readjust to society, like we said with the GI Bill of Rights, in terms of education and financial help. And this does help men kind of return from war and helps them recover from some of the struggles they may have been facing. Okay? That's all I have for this lesson. So if you would, make sure that you answer the questions and submit them, and I will see and talk to you later.